Daniel is out jogging with Vasco, and you can see he's really sweating it out, while Vasco looks completely fresh. Daniel's feeling so wiped out that he thinks he might just collapse. After they finish their run, Vasco gives Daniel a pat on the back for a job well done. Between gasps, Daniel asks Vasco if just running is enough, or if he should pick up a martial art or something. Vasco tells him there are no shortcuts. He explains that hard work pays off, so if Daniel puts in the effort, he can really change himself. Daniel notices the bench press and asks Vasco if he works out every day. Vasco casually mentions that he does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and runs 10 kilometers daily. Daniel can't help but wonder how Vasco still has all his hair. Just then, Jace shows up, and Vasco asks if he used telepathy to find him. Jace replies that he just figured Vasco would be here. He then gives Daniel a look and tells Vasco that he hasn't had much time to hang out with him because he's been busy training Daniel for the last 3 days. Zach spots Daniel sipping on a chocolate milk and thinks it's clear that he will eventually give up, questioning why Vasco is even bothering with someone like him. We're back at school, and Zach is still suffering from his injury from the camp mishap. Mira is feeding him like he's a little kid, and surprisingly, he seems to be loving it. Vin-Jin glances at Mary, but she quickly tells him to not even think about it. Vasco gives Daniel a chocolate milk, urging him to drink it before it spoils. Jace notices this and wonders why Vasco has been handing out so much milk lately. Daniel ponders what kind of crew the Burn Knuckles really are, good or bad. They might look like troublemakers, but he knows there's more to them, especially since they're led by Vasco. Wanting to join in, Jay hands Daniel 2 cartons of chocolate milk, and Daniel thanks him for the thoughtful gesture. As the school day wraps up, we see Woong helping an elderly lady carry a hefty stack of boxes up a hill. Daniel jogs over to lend a hand and manages to push the whole wagon without needing help from Woong or the lady. Woong stares at his hand, amazed that Daniel managed to push the whole wagon all by himself. Meanwhile, in another part of town, 2 kids are crying because their expensive ball is stuck in a tree, and they know their parents will be furious if they can't get it back. Jace notices the situation and decides to kick the tree to try and shake the ball loose. He starts sweating and thinks he should have just kept walking, instead of trying to look cool by kicking the tree. Just as he's having that thought, the tree shakes and the ball falls free. We see Daniel with his leg out, having knocked the ball down with a single powerful kick. He greets Jace, saying it looked like he needed help getting the ball down. Then he points out a bug on Jace's shoulder, which sends Jace into a fight or flight mode, since he's terrified of bugs, and he bolts away. Daniel reflects that maybe the Burn Knuckles gang isn't so bad after all, they just have a tough exterior. Jace is sitting on a bench, lost in thought. He's reflecting on Daniel's kick and wondering if he might actually be stronger than Vasco. Just then, Daniel, now in his other body, asks Jace what's on his mind. Jace responds that he's thinking about some jerk. He intimidates Daniel a bit, questioning why he's even talking to him. Daniel says he's just curious about Vasco, which catches Jace's attention. Daniel goes on to describe Vasco as amazing, strong, and kind, even saying he wishes he had a body like Vasco's, as if he's from another planet. Jace glances at Daniel and realizes that he might be more attached to Vasco than he initially thought. Maybe he's been through some tough times, Jace muses, and it makes sense why Vasco is looking out for him. He reflects that Daniel has no clue about who Vasco really is and what he's experienced. We see Vasco, whose real name is Yuntae, playing with his action figure. Jace is Yuntae's only friend, and his mom used to give them snacks, always thanking Jace for being there for Yuntae. Later, we find them in class together. Jace shares that he's glad they're in the same class, and when he asks Yuntae if he feels the same, Yuntae nods. Some classmates start chatting about a new mobile game that's gaining popularity. Yuntae begins to feel left out and asks Jace if he's ever played games on his phone. Jace suggests they download the game together. This makes Yuntae very happy. Just then, a few classmates approach Jace, inviting him to walk to the snack shop together. He blushes, agrees, and invites Yuntae along too. While they're waiting in line, some seniors cut in. The biggest one starts asking if anyone has cigarettes. The friend in a gray jersey hesitantly hands over his smokes. He glances at Jace, suggesting they join the seniors for a smoke, thinking it would be a big deal for them. Jace considers it, but Yuntae warns him not to go with them, reminding him that their mom said smoking is bad and that they shouldn't even touch it. He adds that smokers are losers, which seems to irritate the seniors. The big guy then walks over to Yuntae and slaps him across the face, but Yuntae does not apologize and then starts kicking him. Everyone is stunned as Yuntae silently endures the hits. Jace can't even look at Yuntae. The senior in the yellow jacket warns Yoontae that he'll regret calling them losers. The next day, Yoontae shows up to class covered in blood. Jace tries to comfort him, saying those bullies are just pathetic losers who pick on smaller kids like Yoontae, but Yoontae insists he's okay. Jace thinks to himself that Yoontae seems fine, but being around him feels risky, so he decides to keep his distance. Some time passes. Yoontae invites Jace to the snack shop, but Jace declines, saying he's already going with some other friends. He ends up sipping his chocolate milk alone. Some more time passes. While outside the school looking for a place to smoke, Jace hears someone crying and goes to check it out. It turns out to be Euntae, sobbing all by himself. Jace's eyes go wide. He's never seen Euntae cry before, so he quickly turns and runs away, trying to forget what he just witnessed. The next week, Euntae is absent from school. Jace knows he's not the type to just skip out, so he worries that something must have gone wrong. Still, he tells himself it might be for the best since Euntae was clearly struggling just to come to school every day. Then, one of his friends catches his attention and tells him that he's been asked to bring Euntae's friend to the seniors. Jace arrives and notices some seniors picking on another student. Two of them spot him and wave him over. The senior in the yellow jacket turns to Jace and asks if he knows why he's there. "Not really," Jace replies, his voice shaky. The senior kicks the other student, who crumples to the ground in pain. Then he pulls out what looks like a pen and asks the student if he wants to end up like that. The student's eyes widen, and he scrambles back against the pole. Jace starts to worry if he's going to face the same treatment as the kid in front of him. The senior in the yellow jacket begins drawing on Jace's face and asks if Euntae is his best friend. Jace nods, "Yeah." The senior then shoves the marker up his own nose, changes his tone, and tells Jace that Euntae has been missing school for 2 days. He warns Jace to bring Euntae back by tomorrow or he'll be the one hanging on that pole, and the thing in his nose won't be a marker. After they leave, Jace and the other students start wiping the marker off their faces. The kid with glasses tells Jace that Euntae is incredible. He gets beaten up every day but never complains. Jace thinks to himself that Euntae is really tough, and he couldn't handle that. Fast forward to when Jace is about to ask Euntae to return to school. He stands outside the door, unsure of how to talk to his friend, whom he feels he has let down. He opened the door, and it was very dark inside. Jace asked if Euntae was asleep, and Euntae wanted to know why he had come to visit. Jace rubbed his head and explained that he hadn't seen him at school for 2 days, so he wanted to check in. He handed Euntae some notes and started to look around the room, spotting some tissues stained with blood. Jace thought to himself that Euntae must have been hurt pretty badly. To encourage him to return to school, Jace mentioned that they hadn't hung out in a while, and there was a lot of homework piling up. Euntae saw right through Jace's lie, but assures him he will go back to school. He admitted he had been feeling under the weather for a few days, but was starting to feel better. Jace couldn't help but wonder what the bloody tissues were for then, and continued to search the room. When he went to jot down some notes for Euntae, he noticed the pen, and Euntae immediately told him to get rid of it. Jace could see Euntae trembling at the sight of the pen. Memories of what the senior had said earlier that day flooded back to him. He jumped onto the bed and threw off the covers, and Jace's heart raced. Euntae's body was marked with irreplaceable, carved brands. Jace breaks down in tears, asking Euntae why he didn't speak up earlier. He tells Euntae that he should have just apologized back when he called them losers for smoking, as it could have prevented all this. Euntae responds quietly, saying that when you show fear, pain, and cry out, it makes them feel powerful. They bully to impress others, and if he gives in to their demands, it means he's losing. Euntae looks at Jace and insists he doesn't want to be a loser. Jace is too shocked to respond. Euntae thinks to himself that all good-looking guys are trouble. The next day, Jace confronts the seniors, telling them that Euntae is really hurt and they should stop their actions. Suddenly, a fist comes flying at him, hitting him right in the face. Jace clutches his face in agony, wondering how Euntae has endured this pain for so long without a word. The big senior taunts him, asking if he's ready for another hit, and starts targeting Jace while he lies helpless on the ground. The senior leader gets furious, warning that if Jace wants to play the hero, he'll have to face the consequences. He tells his buddies to close the door and keep an eye on things in the hallway. It's just the two of them now. The senior reminds Jace that he had already warned him. If he didn't bring his friend today, he'd be the one hanging out with him instead. He pulls out the tool he used to mark Euntae. He mentions that while it's meant for eyebrow tattoos, it can also work on belly buttons. Jace shuts his eyes, bracing for a sharp pain in his stomach, but Euntae shows up just in time. Feeling guilty for dragging his friend back to school, knowing he was just going to face a beating, Jace can't bring himself to look at Euntae. He reflects on everything Euntae has done for him and feels he can't even call himself Euntae's friend anymore, given all the trouble he's put him through. Just as Jace is lost in thought, Euntae steps in front of him with his hands raised, surprising everyone watching. "That's my friend," Euntae declares. The big guy doesn't waste any time and lands a kick right to Euntae's head. Euntae tries to throw a punch, but the big guy easily sidesteps it. Another senior jumps in, delivering a kick to Euntae's side. Euntae goes for another punch, but again, he misses. A few minutes pass, and the three of them are still at it. The seniors comment on Euntae's stubbornness, even though they've really beaten him up. "Don't mess with Jace," Euntae says, blood streaming down his face. Jace crawls over to the senior leader, pleading for the beating to stop. He reaches out, but instead, the leader unleashes a flurry of attacks on Jace. Euntae can't do anything since he's pinned down by the big guy. The other seniors start to get anxious as the leader is going too far and is losing control. The guy in the blue jacket heads outside to look for teachers. But before he can make it through the door, the big guy spots him flying across the room. We see Gu with the student who was forced to hold onto the pole. "So one's out cold and two are left," Gu says. He winks at Jace, hinting that he's brought in a fighting prodigy to help them. He asks Gu if he can take them all on, and Gu replies that as long as he gets paid, he's in. But the guy in the red jacket is heavy, so it'll cost an extra $200. The seniors ask who he is, and he smirks, saying he's a villain, just like them. The student tells Jace that Gu is a distant cousin of his, and they're the same age, but the big difference is that Gu is an excellent fighter. The big guy swings hard, but ends up getting tripped and kneed as he falls. He seals the deal with a well-placed shot to the groin. The senior leader pulls out a knife and asks Gu if he thinks this is a joke. Gu glances at his cousin and mentions that it'll cost an extra $500 because of the weapon. He wishes he could really teach these guys a lesson, but if he does, he'll end up in a place he really doesn't want to be, so he settles for just knocking them out. Gu notices some engravings on Euntae and wonders if the senior with the knife did that before. With a knife and a victim in front of him, Gu thinks to himself. He tells his cousin he'll take on the yellow jacket senior for free. A big grin spreads across his face as he adds that since Euntae looks like he's being bullied, anything he does can be justified as self-defense. His cousin feels a sinking feeling, admitting he was afraid something like this might happen again. Gu's cousin remarks that bad things happen when a wicked person crosses paths with someone even more wicked. The leader charges in for an attack. Before he can get close enough, Gu swings a chair at him. While the leader is down on the ground, he mocks him for being cheap for using a knife in a fistfight. The leader complains about a broken tooth and insists he'll cover all the hospital expenses, but Gu brushes him off and shoves the chair into his face. Then he stomps on the leader's hand, which was reaching for the knife, causing him to scream in agony. Gu shares a story about a kid from his neighborhood who once tried to stab him, and he ended up breaking all the kid's fingers. Now writhing in pain on the floor, the leader asks Gu why he's doing this. Gu flashes an evil grin and replies, "For no reason at all." The leader trembles in fear and ends up wetting himself. Just then, teachers burst through the door and take in the chaotic scene. They manage to calm things down and escort everyone to the principal's office, where the three seniors accuse Gu of abuse. However, Gu defends himself, claiming he was just protecting himself and the injured boy. He warns the principal that if he gets punished for defending a relative from a knife-wielding maniac, he'll take the matter to the press. He adds that the school could either face serious consequences or let him leave peacefully. The three seniors are visibly shaken by his tone. In the next scene, we see Gu heading home, completely unfazed by the earlier incident. He tells Euntae that he should give him some cash as a reward for taking care of his bullies, but he's willing to let it go this time. Euntae then asks Gu how he became so strong. Gu replies that he does 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and runs 10 kilometers every day. Euntae vows to himself that he needs to get stronger to protect himself, his friends, and those he cares about. Gu's cousin offers them a skewer, and Euntae flinches at the sight of the sharp needle. Jace is at a loss for words. Fast forward a few days, and we find the two chatting. Jace mentions that since Euntae loves birds, he got a bird tattoo. He shows off a bluebird tattoo on the left side of his chest. Euntae is in awe, but gets nervous when he remembers that getting a tattoo involves a tattoo gun. Jace teases him about being a chicken, but Euntae insists he'll get the tattoo no matter what. He gets the bluebird tattoo in the same place as Jace. We flash back to before Jace got his ink. He pleads with the tattoo artist to give his friend a cover-up. but the artist thinks Jace is out of his mind for wanting to tattoo a kid. He tells Jace to leave and never return since it's illegal to tattoo minors. In the next scene, we see Jace outside in the cold, sitting on the ground. His snot has frozen, and he's starting to show signs of hypothermia. The tattoo artist finishes up and steps outside, only to find Jace in that condition. He finally says yes, but he needs to practice on him first. We then return to after Yoontae got his first tattoo, where the artist wished he had a friend who would go to such lengths for him, just like Jace does. Fast forward to the present, 3 years later, and Jace claims he has no regrets and is glad to still be by Vasco's side like true best friends. He stands up to head home but is interrupted by loud honking and beeping in the distance. Jace wonders who's riding a bike in the park. As the riders crest a hill, they start to look a bit familiar. Jace spots them right away. They're the senior bullies from their previous school. They park their delivery bikes and notice Vasco working out, but they mistake him for a thug because of his tattoos. As he starts grunting, the 3 bullies look genuinely frightened. The leader warns everyone not to make eye contact. They shift their focus to Jace and Daniel, trying to figure out if they've seen Jace before since he looks familiar. The big guy notices Jace's prominent ears and recognizes him immediately. They get up, and the big guy says he'll bring Jace to them. But before he can act, Vasco starts chatting with Jace. Vasco mentions he needs to use the bathroom. The bullies are taken aback by how casually the two are interacting. As they head toward the bathroom, the leader thinks Jace is making fun of them, as Jace looks back for a second and shoots him a dirty look, signaling them to leave. They then turn their attention to the overweight guy sitting next to Jace, ordering him to follow them for a little chat. They instruct him to stand against a wall. The leader asks Daniel if he's buddies with the guy with the big ears, but before Daniel can respond, Jace jumps in. "Leave my friend alone," Jace says as he stands up to the bullies. "Looks like nothing's changed. Come here, Daniel." Daniel feels touched by Jace's show of friendship and courage. The leader then reveals a scar on his face from their run-in with Gu years ago and threatens Jace, saying he'll give him a few scars too. Jace just brushes him off, telling them all to scram. This infuriates the leader, who charges at Jace, but ends up getting smacked with a wooden sign, clearly not having learned from past mistakes. His 2 friends rush in to help, but are quickly taken down by Jace. "Do you have any idea how hard I've worked every day because of you guys? It's enough to make me bald," Jace declares, looking down at them as they squirm in pain on the ground. He adds that he wishes he could keep going, but he knows Vasco wouldn't be happy about it. Jace heads off, asking Daniel to join him. We flash back 2 years to when Jace and Vasco wrapped up their tattoo sessions. Jace's tattoo reads, "My Hero Man E.T." Vasco is curious about the meaning behind it, and Jace admits that the movie really moved him when he first saw it. As their chat comes to an end, Vasco starts to walk away, but he turns back to tell Jace that he considers him his hero man. However, as Yoontae leaves, we notice that Jace's tattoo doesn't refer to the alien ET. It actually stands for Untae. Next, we see Gu chatting with someone, expressing that it feels like he's talking to a celebrity since he's heard so much about him from various detention centers. The person turns out to be Gun, who mentions that he's been assigned to do a partner test with Gu. We switch scenes again to find a student being bullied, using tactics similar to what Gu's cousin had to endure. It becomes clear, though, that the bully is actually Gu's cousin, who, after relying on his cousin for protection, now believes he can act without facing any consequences. "You met my cousin, right? Should I call him? He's a good friend of mine." The bully boasts with a smug grin.